Hello, this is Trevor. Today we're working on an authentication lab in PortSwigger's Web Security Academy. It is username enumeration via different responses. So a brute force, it has an account with a predictable username and password, and we have two word lists. So we need to enumerate a valid username and then password and access their account page. Sweet. All right, well, let's get started. I'm going to download these. Well, I don't know if they're downloadable or what. They're not. But is there a copy button? No. So I have to do it manually like a freaking noob? Is it only A's? Okay, sure. So let's go here and we'll do vim usernames.txt. Paste that. And then we'll grab passwords. And then I want passwords.txt. Dang it. There we go. Okay, so we've got those. We can close this and this. And so we're going to enumerate a user and then brute force that user's password to log it to get their access their account page. So let's see what the login responses look like. We want, I don't know if we have a valid user or not, but let's start with wiener and then blah. Invalid username. So there we go. This is how we'll know if we have a valid username or not. Let's go ahead and write that part up in our script. So, did I already talk about this? No, I didn't. But I created a handy dandy script. I was tired of, trying to figure out the lab name, creating the script, copying over the template, and then figuring out if it was a blog or a shop, and then modifying the template. So I had that. So what I did was I created a script to do that for me. I named it create script, and all I need to do is provide it the lab URL and hit enter from the directory. And this, you can see it figures out the title. From the title, it creates a script name. It figures out this type. So that in this case, it's a blog. And then it gives the command that we'll want to run. In fact, I'm just going to paste that here right now, just so I have it in the history to execute our new script. Let's check out the new script. Username enumeration. And there we go. This is exactly like our template, but it's configured for a blog just like we want. It has everything we wanted. I don't know if you want, I'll show you real quick what it does. But it visits the website, gets the response, pulls out the title. Like I said, formats that. The formatting for the title right here, we strip it, lower it, replace any dashes with spaces, and then replace all the spaces with underscores, or no, we do that here. We split them by words in spaces, replace or join them with an underscore, and then add a .py at the end. I think the get site type was pretty cool. So I found the CSS was reliable to, you know, if it had this CSS, it was blog. If it had this, it was a shop. And then I also added in the unknown just in case there's one that I don't get. And I think kind of the coolest part was the render template. So I used Jinja 2 and created this exploit.jinja2 file with the template. Let me show you that in templates. And then I just did this if site type shop, do that, else, you know, or no, if site type is blog, do this, and did the same thing here. And so when it renders, it has the correct information. Anyway, simple script. I'm happy with it so far. I think it's going to, well, I mean, it's already come in handy. I like it. That was just an annoying part of doing these videos, and I'm really happy that I no longer have to worry about it. So what did I say? Oh, we're going to start We're going to start brute forcing usernames. We could do this threaded. I probably want to do eventually threaded. Should we start off with threading? It's a good question. Yeah. Yeah, we do. Let's start off with one. Make sure we have that working, and then start threading. So we need to duplicate proxy HTTP history, post this one, and then we need to be able to tell if it's valid or not by the response. And then once we have that done, we can implement multiple threads and reading in multiple stuff. So we need a function def post login here. Def is valid. I think that's all we need, right? So in post login, notice there's no CSRF token. We just need username and password. Oh, we need probably URL, username, password. All right. And then we'll do if, oh, and we need proxy. URL, no proxy. We should do an authentication class. Yeah, I like that idea. So in utils, we'll do % authentication.py. And then we'll do it similar to like our SQL injection class here, where we just, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Class, we'll do authentication. And then we'll init def init. We don't need anything, but do we need self? Yes. We're going to just pass for now. And then we need def post login self, and then pass, and then def is valid self pass. So we'll start using this on this first script, and then we'll expand it as we get more into authentication. And again, we will subclass this to overwrite, post login or is valid. Yeah, hope that makes sense. So when we do authentication, let's pass in the no proxy, the URL, and no proxy here. I don't know if exactly this is going to be right, but self dot URL equals URL, self dot no proxy equals no proxy. Let's give this one a default value. So I want to use a proxy unless I state otherwise. So I'm going to do this as false. So no proxy equals false. And really, I hate that I'm doing negative here, but I don't know why. It would make my life much easier if I just did proxy. So if no proxy is true, that means we don't use a proxy. If no proxy is false, it means we use a proxy. All right. That's a good start. Let's define a post login. So we want if self dot no proxy. So if that's true, we're not going to use a proxy. Requests dot post URL, and we're going to do data equals data. We'll leave it like that for now, and of course we will modify this in the future if we need other values. And this is self.url. And we need to import requests. Okay. Here we need to define data equals username. And we need a username and a password. So here we need username, password. We may want to set up an instance variable with all the usernames or passwords and loop through it in the class. I think that'd be kind of cool. Else, I'm going to do same thing, but with the proxies. So proxies equals utils.proxies. We're going to need to import utils and verify equals false. Let's import utils. And then we will return resp. So I want this function just to send the post. I want this function just to process the response. And then if in this case, we're going to do if invalid username, and let's make sure post login. Yeah. What I wanted to make sure is we didn't get like a 302. We got an actual 200 with invalid username. So we can do if invalid username in resp.text return false, return true. All right. So there's a very simple implementation of this start of this class. Let's use it here. So we need auth equals authentication. We need to import that. So from utils.authentication import authentication. This should be a lowercase a. There we go. What do we need to provide this? We need to provide it with the URL. That's basically it. So does blog have a login? So let's go to utils site. Is there a login URL? Yes, right there. Sweet. So we can just give that blog.login URL and blog.noproxy because we have that one. Second value, we might as well pass it in. Okay, now we have auth. We want to, let's build a loop. Def check usernames. And this will receive a list of usernames. So usernames are self usernames. Do we want usernames to be an instance variable? Will we change it in the middle? I think we might want to. Let's leave it here like this for now and then decide. So in this, we're going to do for, and it'll be a list. Let's look up. I'm really bad with the type hinting, but I think it's important here. So Python type hinting. I think it's important on this one because I need to know that it needs to be a list. So I'm going to do boom list like that. And it'll return what? A string? str. Did I do that right? No, the colon goes after. All right. So all this does is it tells me the type of this variable, which should be a list, and the type that gets returned, which should be a string. Or which should be a string. We'll see how this works out. So for change username in usernames, I want to resp equals post login. Oh, we need a password. And this is going to be a string. Or should we, let's do a default password. Equals blah. And not do this. So instead of check username, let's call this something different, because really what it's doing is enumerating users. So let's call it that. Enumerate users. We give it a username list. We have a default password. So post self dot post login username. That's all we need to provide it. And then we do is valid on the resp. And here we can do if this is true, return username. Yeah, like that. And this is self dot is valid. So let's try this out and see if we can successfully enumerate a user. We need user names equals. Let's do this with open usernames.txt. We're going to open it and read only as F. So we've opened usernames. Now we're going to do the split line. So I need f.read dot split lines. Pretty sure that will return what we want, usernames equals, which is a list of usernames. And then here we can do auth dot enumerate users usernames, and username equals if username log.info valid valid username. Okay, so I think this will work. Let's start log.info enumerating users. And we need to add in this and of course this, and we probably need this and this, just so we don't get those warnings. Okay, let's try this out. Let's make sure the site's still alive. We've been fooling around for so long. So we want to do this. Python username -d, and then once we have this, we got it. Let's see if we can enumerate a user without getting too many errors. So let's see how we're doing. Looks like we're doing good. Again, this is where I want threading to come in, but I want to make sure it works singly first, and then we'll implement threading. And I'm still not, super good on that. So but this will just go until we find a user. Let's start looking at how we're going to do that. So we did it in SQL injection, and we did it in at least one other place. Hey, we've got a valid user. Sweet. And then we would need to brute force their password. Should we? Let's start implementing threading now, and then we'll implement the brute force password with threading at the same time. So let's see, where did we XSS? Oh, we did some in XSS too, didn't we? When we solution bracket capturing passwords, when we figured out which HTML, it was like a whitelist one. So which one would accept the tag? Yeah, like this, the one I'm on. No, this one. Oh, I don't see it in this. Dang it. So not that one. Not that one. You know what? I can do cd here, grep -r, and I want concurrent. Okay. So event handlers, let's look at that one. Event handlers, href attributes blocked. So this is our task right here. And this is where we run the task. All right, well, that looks doable. Except we want it to stop as soon as we find one. Instead of testing all. Well, either way, we can do this. Okay. Let's just copy this over. We have too many files open. We want here. I'm just going to paste it at the bottom and comment it. All right. So we need to create tasks, and that was something I didn't copy over. Let me open it up, close out some of these other ones. This is where we create the tasks. And that's what we're going to do here. So tasks equals boom, boom. And then for username in usernames, here we're going to do, we'll name it the, I named it result down here, but I don't think that's a very good name. We'll name it task, I guess. That's awesome. So we need to provide it everything we need in this, which is just, well, we can provide it username. Yeah, we'll just provide it username. So username for now, I guess. And then, oh, we need the result, don't we? Tag, test type, result. And this will just be none. Okay. Here we'll do tasks.append task. So now we have a list of tasks. And, you know, this is a very memory intensive way of doing this. There would be better ways like, you know, using a generator. But for our purposes, what I'm doing now, this is going to work out fine. Once we've got the task created, which is right here, now I can do with concurrent.futures.threadPoolExecutor. So that's what's going to manage things. We want to num thread. So I want to, when we initialize, I want self.num threads here. Num threads equals, let's give it a default of what, 5? Sure. Self.num threads equals num threads. And then we want to name this as executor. Results equals executor. So this is where we're going to call it submit. The function we're going to run, which is post login, self.post login. And then the argument, which is task, for task in tasks. And then here we want for f in concurrent futures as completed results. Yeah, because we named it that in the line above. Res equals f. I want to name this future. Future dot result. Okay. If res, we're gonna set a variable user valid usernames dot append res. So valid usernames equals a list. We're going to append that here. And then once we're done, we're going to return valid usernames. So this right here is now incorrect. Instead of a string, we're returning a list. Let me make sure that I didn't miss anything. It looks like we're good, so I can delete this, or at least comment it. If self, post login. So we should do this. Is valid should receive a username. It will post and then do a check. So we need enumerate user. We need is valid. I like that name for what this does. We need some other level though. Because I only want to call one function and have it run both of these methods. Def check user name task. That's fine. So we'll do resp equals self.post login. Boom task username. And then, we need self here. And then once we have the rest, we'll do return is valid resp. And here we'll do self. All right. That's fine. Enumerate users will call check username. So in here, I want check username. Check username. It'll receive a task with the username as a dictionary item and result. I don't need result because I'm not using that. Okay. All right, well, let's give that a shot. We need to, of course, import the concurrent futures. And this is a built-in, so it goes there. Enumerate users. Has anything changed? I think we can just run it without change. We need to go back to CD authentication and then go back to run this. Hopefully see. Oh, yeah, look at that. That's much better. It's not going to give any responses yet until it's done. We could tell it valid username. Oh, crap. Is valid. So it only found one username, but because rest. Oh, so right here, we don't want this. If self.is valid resp return task username. There we go. Yeah, that should work better. We're using 5 threads, which is the default. We could up this when we create the authentication. Num threads equals 10 to make it go a little faster. There we go, valid usernames. And I need, when I do that log, I want it to say usernames. And should I do like, this is getting dot join this so it looks a little better. We're doing it twice as fast now, 10 threads. But we now have threading in our, we have that ability. Valid usernames. There we go. Sweet. Now we can do the brute force passwords. So def brute force password. This will be, we'll need a username. We'll do self username and a password list. So we can type the hint this again. So list, and this will be a string. Okay. Brute force password. What I want it to do is post login and then check if it's valid to see by what response we get. So let's go to my account and provide that this ADSL and blah. See what we get. Incorrect password. So we can tell by that whether or not we have the right password. So we kind of need to do a lot of the same things. We may be able to do is valid, like pass in a invalid string or a valid string to make this more universal. I think we'll do that. Brute force password. So we need to kind of do the same thing we did in this one. We'll log.info brute. Should this be hyphenated? Forcing password for username. And then we want valid password equals Oh, we don't need that. We need tasks equals boom boom for username in user for password in passwords. Task equals password tasks dot append task. You know, I probably could do that with a list comprehension. I'm going to try it real fast just because I want to get better at that. So I need tasks equals boom password for password in passwords, right? This should create a dictionary. Let's try this. IPython. So we need a list. So A equals A, B, C. And I want to turn that list into a list of dictionaries. So I'm going to do password for password in A. Hey, there we go. That's exactly what I wanted. So that should work. Tasks equals that. In fact, for this one, we don't, since we're only providing one value, do we really need a dictionary? We'll leave it because it's a little bit more flexible. Otherwise, we'd need to change this up here too. But so next we did that. We want to start with concurrent dot futures dot thread pool executor max workers equals self dot num threads boom as executor results equals executor dot submit self dot check. Oh, we don't want check username. We want check password and task for task in tasks. That I'm gonna look. So give me just a second. Let me pause the video. Basically, what I'm gonna do is I know I've done it so that I end all of the running threads when I find a valid thing. Enumerate usernames. I probably want this to get as many usernames as it can, but when I'm doing a password, there's only one password. So I want it to end these threads as soon as I find the right username or the right password. So I'm going to check because I know I've written code like that before. Get it, and I'll be back in just a second. Okay, so I think I've got it here. This is what we'll do. So we're getting the results, same as we do here, and then we'll do for future in concurrent dot futures, same as we have above, dot as completed futures. Oh, because let's name this to futures. So then we can do the same here. Boom. Res equals future dot result. Just like we have above. And then here's where we change. If res is not none, executor dot shut down wait equals false, cancel futures equals true. There we go. And then we can log it and return it. Log.info valid password is res. And then return res. Okay, so we with, for, if, and then return. That looks good. We need to make sure we need to write our check password. Whoops. Def check password self and task resp equals self dot post login task username, but this time we need task password. We don't have that in here. We need to add it. Username, password. There we go. So we're doing post login, the username and password. And then here we're going to do the same if self dot is valid resp, but we need we're going to provide it with an invalid string equals, what did I say? Invalid username, but there's also the invalid password. And that's the one we want here. Just because we don't know what it looks like, what the page response, like a good response looks like. So we can't just test for that. We could guess, but I'd rather know like an invalid. We know that that has incorrect password. And the reason I'm putting that here is because I want to change is valid. So invalid string. Yeah. Do I want that to be, for now, I'm going to make it required. So when I call it in check username, I need to put invalid username. And now I can do here if invalid string in resp text, and then same return task password. We want return both the username. No, because we'll know the username. Valid password. Yep, that's fine. All right, I think that's mostly there. Let's try. And so right now we have a list of valid usernames. So let's pull out one. So and then we'll run auth dot, what did I name that? Brute force password for I want to change this. Valid usernames. If change a word, valid usernames, and do the same here. Okay. Valid usernames. We'll do the first one, and our passwords. We need a password list. Is that right? Yep. So we'll do the same as we did here, except for we'll change this to passwords and passwords. Here, passwords. We may want to move these two into the class if we continue to use these. Log.info valid username and password username colon password. We want 0, and we want to save this. Oh, and I need to change this. Change in Word. Valid usernames. Okay, let's try that. Control C, D, yes. Run this. It's enumerating users. And then it'll, once it's finished, it'll enumerate or brute force the password for ADSL. There we go. We got it. Woo! So now, to solve this, we just need to do blog.login with, I want to name valid. So I'm going to name this user equals valid usernames 0 and user password blog.is solved. Whew. All right, so I spent a lot of time on this first challenge, right? It shouldn't have taken this much time, but I did a lot of extra stuff, mainly like all of this, right? I built the kind of the foundation of our authentication or our brute forcing class so that lab is solved. As we continue on with these challenges, we don't have to write, we have a foundation that we can build upon to make those faster. But very cool. So we just brute forced a username. Well, we did username enumeration. And we were able to do that because when we provide an invalid username, it tells us that the username is invalid. When we provide SL blah a valid username but an incorrect password, it tells us that as well. Based on that information, we were able to determine a username that works and then brute force the password so that we could log in and solve the lab. Very cool. To do that, we built a class with a bunch of function or methods and used threading to accomplish the things very quickly. And that's it. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks so much. Goodbye.